In this section, we're going to take a look at how to edit multiple sheets at once. So as you'll recall, we copied the basic financial analysis over to be the advanced one. So these two are identical, at least in the top sections, as we've just copied them over. So let's say that for some reason I wanted to change the start year, and in order to save time, I wanted to change it on both sheets at once. I select both at the bottom by holding down Shift. So if I start on Advanced Financial Analysis and I hold Shift and I select Basic as well, they're both selected. In the top here now I can type 2015 and I'm going to click on Extra Data just to ungroup both of them. I see that Advanced starts at 2015 and Basic starts at 2015. So this is a really quick way to edit if you have identical tabs, which can often be great for a consolidated financial model. You can edit all of them at once by selecting them all. So I'm just going to change this back to 2014 and unselect the multiple tabs here. Let's open up all these sections here, and scrolling down to the bottom under Analysis, well, we're going to learn how to name cells here and how to reference named cells. So in order to do that, let's just pull an example from above. Let's take EBITDA. And now to calculate EBITDA down here, what I could do is link up to the gross profit line and deduct SG&A. I could also directly reference to the EBITDA line right here. But what I want to do is build this up by using named cells, just as an example. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select gross profit, and then using my shortcuts, I'm going to press Alt, M for formulas, N for name manager, and then N for new. And because I've already highlighted this row, it's suggesting gross underscore profit as a name for this entire row. And I'm going to agree with that name. I could change it, but I'm going to leave it as gross profit and then press enter. So now here in our name manager, we can see that gross profit is a name that has been assigned to this entire row. I'm going to click close. The other thing that I'm going to do is then select SG&A. So I can go to SG&A and press Shift Spacebar using my keyboard. Then I can press Alt M N and N for new. And this time it's going to be SG underscore A, which I'm going to agree to, and then close. So now what we can do is down below, where we're going to do a new version of an EBITDA calculation, I can just start typing in EBITDA is equal to gross, and then I see this comes up as gross profit as a suggestion. I press Tab to accept it. Gross profit less SG underscore A. I press Tab again and enter. I can then, holding down the Shift key and the right arrow, copy this over to the right. So if I press F2 and I look inside this formula, it says that EBITDA is equal to gross profit minus SG&A, and if I scroll up, it's highlighting these entire two rows. So what it's doing is it's referencing in the same column that the formula is in. So it's taking gross profit in column D and deducting SG&A in column D. Then when I copied it over, it's taking gross profit in column E and deducting SG&A in column E. So that is a nifty little way to use named cells to, for some people, create an easier way of linking up Excel files. Now that we've tried naming a few rows, entire rows, we're also going to name an individual cell. So in this case, it is C36, which is the percent change. Now I want to give this specific cell a name. I'm going to show you how to change it in this box on the top left here. Just click in there, and I'm going to call this sensitivity underscore driver, and then I'm going to press enter. So now this cell is named sensitivity underscore driver, and if I'm down here, I'm going to do EBITDA sensitivity, And I'm going to say that EBITDA sensitivity is equal to the EBITDA in any given year times 1 plus sensitivity driver. Now I press tab to accept this suggestion of sensitivity driver. Tab, close bracket. So I'm just going to copy the formatting from above and then paste it here. Alt H V S for special, and then T for formats. And holding down Shift and using the right arrow, I can fill this right. So now what I've got here is a dynamic EBITDA line, and I'm using the named cell function to reference sensitivity driver. And you'll notice that I didn't have to anchor this in. I didn't have to use the dollar signs that we'd used previously. It just always references this one cell. So that's another way of using anchoring, is to name a specific cell, and it'll always be, and your formula will always be anchored to that specific cell. Just a comment on naming cells in general. A lot of people do like using named cells because it does make it more explicit. It makes formulas, easy to understand on one level because you can actually see what is described in the formula. However, it makes them more challenging on another sense because I don't know where sensitivity driver is. I don't know what that cell is. Whereas if I'm referencing, for example, the sensitivity driver as C36, it's very easy for me to come up here and see where C36 is. So it is common practice actually not to use much naming of cells because it does make a model harder to audit. But we are now going to take some time to learn some auditing functions of formulas. So what we can do is we can use trace precedents and trace dependents to understand what cells are linking to one another. So if I select a cell here, EBITDA, which I know is a function of a few different parts of the model above, I can then press Alt M for formula and P for precedents. If I scroll up, I see that this cell is dependent on the 10% driver change and the EBITDA number. I can then press trace precedents again to go back further. So I know that EBITDA is a function of gross profit and SG&A. Trace precedents again to get to revenue minus cost of goods sold. And if I press it again, ultimately I can't go back any further. So now I can see the full chain here of how EBITDA sensitivity is arrived at, being a function of all of these items above. When I'm done tracing the precedents, I can remove the arrows. Another way to trace precedents is a shortcut using Control and the open square bracket. Control open square bracket, and I'm going to press it again, takes you back to see the cells that what you were tracing the precedent of are dependent on. So for example, I can go all the way back to revenue cost of goods sold, but you'll notice that as I go through this, I can't see all of the dependents or precedents at once. I can only see one at a time. This function can be very useful if you want to quickly jump to something. So for example, if I want to quickly jump to, in this case, I want to press Control open bracket. I want to quickly jump to see that revenue is a function of the prior year revenue and the growth rate. That's very quick to see, and I jump to two hard codes. If we want to see a more detailed example, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom right cell here, and I'm going to use my shortcuts, practice my shortcuts, Alt M for formulas, P for precedents, and I'm going to press it a few times, Alt M P, Alt M P, Alt M P. And what I'm going to see is that it starts really becoming a very long traceback, and I'm just going to use the mouse here so you can see where I am on the screen, and you can see that it basically goes back all the way to the beginning, because this is all a function of revenue growth and the various revenue growth drivers assumption, margins, etc. This is really a function of the entire model except for depreciation, interest, and tax rate. So basically everything else in the model is flowing through to this year 2020 EBITDA sensitivity number. I'm going to remove the arrows. This is a great way to audit a model, particularly if you want to check your model at the end, or if you're using someone else's model and you want to understand how it flows. Tracing precedents and tracing dependence is a very powerful way to do that. So let's just look at an example of tracing dependence. I'm going to click on this cell here, and I'm going to press Alt M and D. And now I can see that, wow, this cell has a lot of dependence. This sensitivity analysis is flowing through to every single item in this part of the Excel spreadsheet. So this is a great way to see that, yes, this is properly linked up, and this is an important cell that's driving a lot of analysis. In order to tidy this up, let's select these cells here and press Shift Spacebar. And then let's group them with Alt A, Z, O, G, G. Press 1 and collapse everything up. And we're back where we started with a nice organized advanced financial analysis.